All is quiet on the Western Front. The Germans, the French, and even the British build trench works and place machine guns, and otherwise a certain stillness falls upon the western side of Europe. It is the stillness of anticipation, the stillness of building up strength before the next big lunge, the next grand offensive which will tip the balance in favor of one party or another, the next great battle that perhaps will add some positional advantage or attritional war that will allow one nation or another to gain supremacy of forces over the next one. But for now, peace reigns on the Western theater, one of the only places that things are considerably quieter than the others. The British Expeditionary Force has made a landing in Picardy, shoring up the French defenses there and also turning the tide of superiority of numbers towards the Entente Cordiale, meaning that the Entente now have a superiority of forces there. The French has steadfastly been building up troops and marching them up to the front lines. Perhaps we shall see the next great offensive launched by the French in another great attritional battle. We see in the northern portion of Italy, the Austrians have moved into Venice and into Piedmont and taken away some substantial industrial production points from the Italian forces. The Italians, on their part, have been harboring their strength and collecting 35 IPCs in anticipation of perhaps building up the next grand army to march northwards and attack the Austrian forces there, or perhaps to build the next big fleet to attack the Central Powers forces in the Mediterranean and gain control of the Mediterranean once and for all. But for right now, it is unknown and somewhat of a mystery as to what their intentions are. Perhaps they will wait for the American forces to make their presence in the Mediterranean before they will also add their own naval vessels into the water. And with the inclusion of all these American land forces dropping off into some theater of combat in the Mediterranean, perhaps that will be quite the operation when that officially does launch. But for right now, the Italians bide their time in anticipation. And in the meantime, the Austrian forces collect a sizable income of 42 IPCs before their wartime bonuses come in, and it is a sizable income that they offer. Comparing it to the Germans' 52 IPCs, I believe it is quite a substantial force. Perhaps it is 56, I haven't checked in the last little bit. It is a substantial ally in the form of Austria-Hungary. They have a nice force to deal with, and that entirety of their income is aimed towards Italy into shoring up the defensive positions in Venice, with probably some forces coming eastwards as well in pushing towards Russian territory. Otherwise, things look quite still on the entirety of this Western theater as no major battle has occurred in a while. The Ottomans, for their part, have been building up their forces. The Sultan has decided to focus on his navy for a little while, building up dreadnought squadrons and a transport squadron, and perhaps this tipping of balance in the Mediterranean will work in their favor as now the Entente Cordiale suffer for national objectives not reached turn after turn. They also feed troops into the Egyptian theater, into the Palestinian-Egyptian border, and this pins down a significant number of British and Italian forces there. We shall see if that battle, if that frontier, that war between those two sides, as both sides build up forces, if it tips one way or another. But for right now, a stillness reigns on the Palestinian-Egyptian border. Troops have been also fed northwards towards Russian territory, and it is sorely needed. The Russians have made a great offensive, recapturing many of the territories, or at least challenging many of the territories that were previously conquered by the Central Powers forces. In Karelia, a massive attack was launched, a devastating defeat for the Russian forces, and although they managed to contest that territory, they themselves suffered huge losses. I believe it was something to the tune of 16 units lost for the Russian forces to 6 lost for the German forces, so a devastating defeat for the Russians there. But the Russians made up for it by an attack against Volga that took off 11 units for the Central Powers forces, for only 8 lost of their own, if memory serves. So it was quite a nice defeat to somewhat dampen the sting of the loss up north. And on top of that all, they made other attacks in Tatarstan and in Crimea that was they had the advantage of numbers there and took off more casualties than they themselves took in those battles. Overall, the Russian forces are tenuously holding on to the reins of power, but the Russian Revolution draws ever nearer as the Russians will have difficulty in challenging the next sequences of attacks in their territories, and perhaps the next season might see a Russian Revolution occur. The British have been busy for their part, building up forces in Australia, a mighty naval transport squadron, as well as cruiser squadrons, in anticipation of taking off some of the German colonial forces in the Pacific. The Germans only retain control of 3 of the island territories, plus Tsingtao, the bastion of defense in the Pacific, and is not quite sufficient enough to challenge them in the final late game events, but perhaps it might be something worthwhile that we can cause some damage to the enemy. The Japanese have been a formidable force at this point too, collecting 20 IPCs per turn and building up fleet after fleet, transport after transport, and greatly damaging what the Germans can do in a matter of defense in the Pacific theater. We see, of course, down here, we see this character here, who goes by the name of Karl von Müller, with his cruiser squadrons here in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and set up in a position that perhaps he could have gone towards the Pacific theater, or perhaps turned the other way towards the African conflict as well. Uh, Paul von Lito-Vorbeck over here in East Africa is holding on to his colonies here, but desperately holding on as the British forces steadfastly move towards his positions and pin him down with the superiority of numbers. He has succeeded in only in holding back some British forces from being shifted over to other theaters, but that is the best that he can hope for in this theater. We see, of course, that the British have now been pulling in a sizable income of their own, something to the tune of 44 IPCs. Maybe it is something like 45 IPCs per turn. A devastating force, a devastating income coming in, almost matching what the Germans can pull to the table themselves. So it is quite significant. And matching it between what the French, the British, and the Italians and the Americans can pull into the fight, income-wise, both parties or all alliances are roughly evenly matched at this point, as to my knowledge anyways. And that is the summary of what is going on currently in this theater across all conflicts. We see, of course, the American fleet here in the Mediterranean preparing to do some damage against the Central Power forces, as now they have almost completely aligned themselves with the Entente Cordiale. Welcome all to Operation Tannenberg. My name is Jinx. Welcome. I'm a little bit tired today, so I'm not really fully with it. And I know my income tracker, I just realized that it was completely out of whack. So I need to reorganize that. I didn't realize I was that far off. So yeah, it's something I need to take a quick look at. I've just taken a moment to pause this video and count up all the income. So this is the corrected view here. So I have the the Germans at 50, the British at 44, the Austro-Hungarians at 43. We have the French at 28, and both the Americans and the Ottomans at 22, the Russians at 15, the Japanese at 12, forget about the Chinese for now, and 10 for the Italians. Collectively, the Central Powers have 105 IPCs gained per turn, and the Allies have 131. So there's a slight discrepancy between the two, but it is rapidly being matched, and perhaps we shall see how that changes in the near future. So let's dive into the German turn proper. Sorry for the long intro again. I know I apologize each and every time, but you know what? I do generally feel like I do sometimes ramble on a bit. So here we have 50, should be 57 IPC. There it is. 57 IPCs. 57 IPCs. With that 57, we're going to get 2 tanks, 3 submarines, and we're going to get 9 infantry here. So that is the current state of affairs. No tech this turn. I feel like we need to focus quite a bit on doing other things with our resources. And we've gone pretty tech heavy so far in the course of the game, so we don't want to overdo it too terribly much. Let's dive into our turn here, starting with our ship. Here we have this general here, who's called Karl von Müller. Karl von Müller is going to move his 2 cruisers. He's going to move to this position here off the coast of Madagascar. We're going to send this submarine the other way around and going to go with 2 sea zones to 41. So submarine from 38 to 41 in hopes of raiding the west coast of Africa there. We're going to send this transport here in the African theater. It's going to come from sea zone 38 to 37, pick up the infantry in the Dervish state and swing back here and drop off. Pick up this other infantry, if that's possible to do. I'm not sure if you could pick up and drop off. We're going to attack them into British East Africa with also an artillery and another infantry. Artillery, you know what? We're going to send in 2 artillery into that fight. 2 artillery and 1 infantry here. Let me just do a quick math. Okay, so 2 infantry, 2 artillery are going to go into British East Africa. We're actually going to leave 1 artillery behind here. So that'll be 3, and so 1 infantry is going to go here. So that's going to be 3 infantry and 1 artillery going up from British East Africa from German East Africa to British East Africa. So again, 3 infantry, 1 artillery to British East Africa. And we leave behind 2 infantry with machine gun and artillery present there. That is what we're planning on doing. We are going to turn our attention a little bit further eastwards. From Nigeria, we're going to load this transport to Sea Zone 12, move 2 spaces across to Sea Zone 10. We're going to drop off in Chile. This is something that may not be the optimal strategy, but I wanted to see it done. I wanted to see Chile join the Germans. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Now, I realize this means that the Americans are going to join the fight, but they were going to join the fight anyways, so it's it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But here they are joining the fight, so that's pretty cool. Now we have 6 infantry and 1 artillery in Chile. Perhaps that will change things for what the Americans do. It might suck some of those American forces down this way instead of towards the Mediterranean. We really don't know what the ultimate outcome is. For sure, this transport is dead in the water. There's nothing much beyond that could occur. All right, turning our attention beyond the African theater, beyond the Pacific theater, because there's nothing there we can do, and looking a little bit further towards the side over here, the Western Front. We're going to make a slight attack here from Belgium. We're going to go all-out attack into Lorraine against that one sole infantry. So we're going to leave 1 infantry behind. 5 infantry are going to come across to Lorraine, 11 artillery, and we're also going to send our 3 machine gun infantry to this position as well. And that leaves von Kluck is going to lead the charge here. That leaves 1 infantry behind in this territory. Also from Alsace, 3 infantry are going to march into this territory for a nice little tidy fight over there. Actually, you know what? I could send in this additional infantry because I could send 1 infantry coming in from the Rhine province to this territory here, and the other 3 infantry come here combined from Rhine province combined with 2 from Bavaria. And I'm going to do something a little bit funky with this guy here from Bavaria. He's going to get railed a little bit further away. I don't know if it works to use somebody else's rail. So if I could rail him here and then rail him further beyond that, or does it take away from my opponent's capacity? So I'm thinking I would like him to go towards the direction of Constantinople. If I use my allies' rail capacity on their turn, then I will move him here, rail him to this position. Otherwise, I will. If I don't use it, then I'll rail him here and he could just move on. But at the end of the day, it's going to be roughly equidistant to whatever I want to do. So there's not too much else I can do in that theater. But yeah, he's going to move to Dalmatia. There, simple, done. From Brandenburg, we're going to send in an infantry and an artillery going to be railed to the Rhine province over there. And then we turn our attention to the North Sea here. We're going to send 1 submarine to Sea Zone 22. Yeah, Sea Zone 22. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You know what? We could actually send him as far as here to that sea zone. Would that do any damage to anybody? No. 1, 2, 3. Ah, you know what? He could be attacked by those forces. He could be attacked by the entirety of the American fleet. So we're not going to go that far. We're going to go to Sea Zone 22. That gives us some options for the future for either going in a different direction or perhaps just threatening our enemy from that position, I do believe. Moving on. Let's turn our attention to other parts of the world, moving eastwards to this neck of the woods. Okay, so we're going to do some finagling on this side of the theater. First of all, let's take a look at the southern front here, the southeastern front. We have an infantry and a cavalry in this theater. We had to take off an additional infantry here. We took 2 hits instead of 1. I thought we took 1. So we're going to withdraw our machine gun infantry to this position here. Now, I'm going to withdraw. I hadn't thought this through. Yeah, I'm going to withdraw my cavalry, and he's going to go 2 spaces to Belgrade. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I think so. I hope I can move 2 spaces. 1, 2. Yeah, all right. That's kind of where we're going to go there. I know we're looking off camera. He's going to go off to Belgrade. Hope that works. I can't see why I'm not. I might change that, but for right now, let's keep it as is. For some reason, I thought the territories lined up a little bit differently. So that leaves us with an infantry and a machine gun infantry left over here in Crimea. We're not going to combat them. We're just going to keep it as is. We're going to also pair this infantry with the machine guns, so now they both get the bonus of that. So that's all right. We're going to turn our attention northwards to this theater of combat. So 4 infantry are going to move from Poland to Belarus. 4 infantry there. We're going to move 1 artillery from Karelia south. So that's 3 artillery and 4 infantry. You know what? We're going to move a 2nd artillery down as well. So that's 4 artillery and 4 infantry. We're going to move these 4 infantry northwards. Those 4 infantry northwards. Yeah, you know, I don't think I need this much artillery present here. 1, 2, 3. No, we'll leave 1 artillery up north here. Oops. Sets us up nicely for future stuff. Okay, so those 4 infantry move northwards, but from the Karelia stack, we're going to move some infantry around as well. So we're going to move 2 cavalry to this position here. Yeah, to Estonia to engage them in combat. We're going to move some infantry out of Karelia to Estonia as well. Let's say we're going to move 2 infantry there. And then from Karelia also we're going to move to Finland a couple infantry too. So I'm going to move a couple additional here. So I'll give you guys an update as to what's where. But there's now sitting 4 infantry in Finland. And in Estonia, we're going to have... Estonia, let me think on that one for a second. You know what? We're going to send in 1 artillery to... No, we're going to keep it here. What the heck? He says, what the heck? Yeah, okay, 1 cavalry is going to come to Finland. That's our plan there. Let me grab a piece off the board here. 1 cavalry to Finland, 1 cavalry over here. And we're going to also move an artillery into either spot. Yeah, I think I like the sound of that. That gives us a few different options, and I don't know, it seems to work out okay. So 1 artillery into either you know what? One, two. Yeah, I'm going to move 1 artillery into either one of those places. So what that's going to look like... You know what? I'm almost out of artillery pieces. That's kind of cool. All right, there we have it. 1 artillery in either one of those. So we have a sizable force to hold on to it if the forces out of Ingria come forth in strength. Although I don't know if it's quite necessary, really. So, I'm going to remove this here. That's 7, 6, 3, 4. Yep, that's what we'll do. So we have currently 4 infantry, cavalry, and artillery here. 4 infantry, cavalry, and artillery. In Estonia and Finland, the same thing. And in Karelia, we have 4 infantry and 7 artillery. Belarus, 4 infantry and 3 artillery. 4 infantry, 3 artillery, and that's it on the Eastern Front. We're also going to throw in, just for the heck of it, these 2 strategic, Zeppelins. What am I saying? Those 2 Zeppelins are going to go into that fight there. So that's the plan. That's the plan of what they're going to do, engage those forces. Yep, I believe that's it. I know I haven't been using Zeppelins in their strategic bombing role, but hey, that's just the way she goes right now. All right, I believe that's it. Let's start on with some battles. Starting here in Africa, we get to engage this force, the Italian force here. So 3 infantry, or 2 dice at 2, and 2 dice at 4. If memory serves. Yeah. So here's 2 dice at 3, 1 hit, and 2 dice at 2. Lucky we got that 1 hit because nothing else did. And the Italian unit misses. Great. So we take off that Italian unit and we capture original British territory in this position here. And I don't have any more roundels. That is crazy. That is crazy. All right, I'll just use this one here. All right, so British East Africa is ours. We turn our attention to other parts of the world, starting up here in Belarus, I guess. So we have a sizable force going in there. We have 2 Zeppelins, so it's 2 at 3. We have 3 artillery, and we have 4 infantry, but 3 of them are with artillery. So we need 3 hits here. And we've got plenty of hits there. So success, 4 hits. And the Russians have 3 units in response with 1 hit. All right, so good stuff. We take off their 3 and lose 1 of our own. And that fight has concluded. We turn our attention next up to Estonia, which has 4 infantry, 1 artillery, and 1 cavalry going into that fight. So let's see, 4 infantry, artillery, and cavalry. So 1, 2, 3, 4 at 2, and 2 at 3. So let's roll them separately here. Here's the 2s, and there's 2 hits. So that's all we need. So we're going to conclude that fight. We're going to roll for the Russians, and they succeed with a hit. So good on them. Good on them. I'm going to mess up some stuff here. I'm not sure exactly what went where. There we go. That's what it looks like. Okay, so they've scored a... Did they say they scored a hit? Yes, they did score a hit. So we're going to take off 1 of our infantry. Boom. And the Russian guy gets taken off as well. Actually, I'll do it this way. That way I preserve my pieces on the board. What's this one with? 1 buck. All right, so we go up. Actually, we'll do... that's in Karelia last. So moving on. Karelia has the same circumstance, basically, but we have 7 artillery going in. So I'm going to roll 6, 7, 7 artillery with 3 hits, and the enemy gets to roll for 1 infantry and hits as well. So we reduce our forces here by 1. So it's looking a little bit more skinny than I would have liked. I should have kept a couple more infantry here, but we'll see if he's brave enough to go attack that area. I'm not sure if it would be the most advisable course of action. But we do manage to take out his unit as well. And so collectively we've gone up by a value of... How much have we gone up by? 1, 2, 3. So we've gone up by 3. So our German income is at 53, and Russian income has gone from 15 down to 12, matching what the Japanese have, coincidentally. All right. I don't know what this guy here is for. It's a bit of a mystery. I don't think he's supposed to be on the table. I don't know. I'm not certain. Not certain. Oh well, that's the way she goes. Yeah, all right. I think that's it for our battles, actually, looking at the map here. Our Zeppelins get to fly back to Brandenburg. Boom, our V2 rockets back to Brandenburg with you. And I think that's it for all of our attacks across the board. So I'm going to put some units on the table here now. I have 2 tanks. Those 2 tanks are going to go over in Rhine province, as well as 2 infantry into Rhine province as well. We also have these 3 submarines that are going to come to this theater here. So we have 5 subs and 1 dreadnought up north. And then we have another 7 infantry to place down. We're going to place 1 of them. Or sorry, we're going to place 3 of them in Bavaria. So I need to break this stack apart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 3 get placed in Bavaria. Boom, boom. And I'm going to place... I ran out. I didn't have as many as I thought. So 2 are going to be placed in East Africa, because we can't forget about that place. So East Africa gets 2. We're going to... I don't know if it's allowed, but we're going to immediately patch 1 here with one of those guys, and the other guy is unsupported here. And then by rights, I have 2 left in my hand, unless I messed up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I had 9. So yeah, 8, 9 in my hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so instead of that many in Bavaria, I'm actually going to take away 2 infantry from here and put them all in Brandenburg. So that's 4 infantry gets put into Brandenburg. Boom. Not sure exactly what I plan with them, but I like to have options. So there's that. And I think that concludes the German turn. Nothing too much else to do on the board. Let's go to collect income phase. So our income also went up by 3 from Chile. 1, 2, 3. We forgot this Lorraine battle, so let's do that as well. We collected 3 extra from that. Chile we went up, and now Lorraine. So let's roll for Lorraine. Now we have like 11 artillery, so I'm going to roll 6 for now. There's plenty of hits. And the French infantry rolls a hit as well. So the brave French fellow goes down fighting to the last man. And now we count up our income. So we go up to 58, and the French go down to 26, if memory serves here. Yeah, I believe that's it. Okay, everybody. So my income is going to look at 58 over here on the chart. So I'm going to just click that here, 58. We also have for Belgium, $2. We also have for Africa, we control 2 territories that were British, and yeah, both of them were British. Did I bump myself up for that one? I wonder. I might actually be at 59. I don't know if I did bump myself up. Let's bump myself up, because I know the British here haven't gone down, so they're sitting there. Yeah, all right, so I grabbed an extra buck. Then we have Belarus and the rest of those 3, so that's 3 there. And that's it. So in grand total for this turn, our collection is 50, 55, 3, 4, 5, so 60, 65. Now, we also get convoyed 2 for Belgium and 2 for Tsingtao. And so we're down at, let's say that's 50, 60, 61 IPCs to be able to spend on the subsequent turn. Okay, everybody, thank you all for watching. Talk to you later. Cheers.